Oh yeah, little things like that definitely can throw you off, but she has been on stages like this so many times in her career, and illustrious career representing Shopify Rebellion. Put your hands together for Scarlett.
And down here in the bottom right-hand corner of a Royal, sorry, not Royal Blood. Anyways, playing right here with the blue Protoss probes, we have SKillous.
Love seeing Team Liquid pick him up, and he has had such a rise in skill over the last year. First met this young Protoss player back in 2019, and he always had a smile on his face and was very eager to just kind of get out there and learn from his fellow players, and he's always chatting strategy and talking about things, trying to get better and better. But of course, the rise to the top is slow and arduous in StarCraft. It's not something that happens overnight, because you are dealing with players that have been at this for 10 years plus. Scarlett, of course, rising up to the top ranks a decade ago now. So she's been here on this stage many times before.
Yeah, it's very difficult to, well, play StarCraft 2 in general, but taking games off of the best is one of the hardest things you can do in this entire game. I'm expecting mostly normal builds to start this best of 5 series off. I mean, it's going to be a standard expansion right here on the low ground for SKillous. We already see a hatchery down as well on the other side of the map for Scarlett, who is now mining a little bit of gas as well. Generally speaking, this matchup, it starts off with the Protoss player harassing. Obviously, there are build orders that Zerg can go for that allow them to be aggressive, but you already mentioned it, Scarlett very much so the type of Zerg who will try and defend and then eventually overwhelm.
SKillous skipped any sort of early probe scout or attempt to block the expansion. So he's actually played a super economic opening. Expect his Stargate to be down at a blitzing fast rate with that early gas that he's been mining. And no doubt Adepts as well to join up with it. Scarlett's defense will need to be on point. We've got Warp Gate on the way. Does get cancelled. Stargate going down at 2 minutes and 13 seconds. That is an incredibly early Stargate.
And this is something we see time and time again. The Stargate opener is just really nice and comfortable. There's a few advantages. First and foremost, you can get your oracles out nice and early to put some pressure on the Zerg. But maybe even more important for the Protoss, you can help and take the third base with that Oracle quite easily. So taking the third base at about 345, 350 or so is the norm these days. For many years, it was like 5 minutes that we used to see a third base. We're like, oh my god, 4.5 minutes? That's so early. These days, that's considered to be quite late. But I am assuming that it is going to be a Oracle first right here out of the Stargate.
Indeed, Adept probing in, does scout, sees the 4 Zerglings tracking it, and does decide to cancel that. Skillous chrono boosting that first Oracle in a moment when he gets the energy for it. Adding these pylons on time, and it seems like both sides are just feeling each other out. We haven't seen any big, huge deviations from the norm, other than the fact that Skillous, did the greedy opening with no early probe scout, not fearing any rushes from her, and he sees a lot of drones on her expansion. He sees everything looks normal. She's spreading creep. She's moving her queens out front, so Skillous says, yep, this is pretty much what I expected. Straight up game to begin with. And I think there's if you're looking at this, what's the highest probability? Skillous is expecting +1 melee. He's expecting mass Zerglings. She, on the other hand, is expecting him to go double or triple Oracle into heavy Blink Stalker. That's the standard. And what we're going to be looking for is how both players adapt. Are they going to just go with the most rock solid and say, I think I'm better than you in the straightforward game? Or does one of them change things up? Do we see a mass charge transition from Skillous? Does Scarlett decide to go for a big Roach push or a Queen walk across the map? So far, no signs of that. As the Oracle comes in, grabs a drone, gets in, gets out. 0 damage on the Oracle, so that's well worth it.
Yep, the Queen's sleeping on the job there for just a moment. Luckily though for Scarlett, there was a Spore Crawler in that mineral line. You were already talking about it. There's the Forge, there's the Twilight Council as well. We'll have to see exactly what upgrade Skillous decides to go for, but 9 times out of 10 in a standard game, especially game number 1 in a best of 5 series like this, we are expecting that it is going to be that Blink upgrade. There's the Evolution Chamber you were talking about as well, by the way. We should see +1 melee here shortly.
I think actually, because that Robo's gone down very early, we may be seeing Charge Archon. Because Scarlett is so good with that mass Zergling style, and you can see she's going for it. +1 melee does start up nice and early. So there we go, Charge coming in. Now this is something we saw a few games recently. Sometimes it goes amazingly, sometimes not so well. That, Australia tried this first Rainer as well. If you can hit with Charge Archon, that wrecks Zerglings. And Scarlett does not have a Roach Warren at all. She comes in for a light pressure, takes out a few Adepts, not a bad trade for her. Forces the recall as well, perhaps more importantly. But she's definitely not going to be able to deny that third base.
Yeah, so Archon charge slots, it's a very scary unit composition, especially if Zerg is mostly just stuck on the Zerglings here. Now sometimes Zergs do get a little bit greedy. They will skip both the Roach Warren as well as the Baneling Nest. If Scarlett decides to do that in this particular game, she would be in a ton of trouble. But I think we can expect that at the very least one of those two structures will go down here very shortly. Normally you start up the Roach Warren right about right now when the lair, there it is at about 1/3 done.
Yeah, not too bad. 520 on the Roach Warren is A-okay because this is an economic build for SKillous. Even though he's going Charge Archon, and we may see, say, a quick Warp Prism fly into her main, try to drop some Archons and warp in Zealots there, it's not like he's cutting probes to do this. He's not limiting his economy. He's still progressing to the next stage, and I would expect a fast 4th being attempted as well. Robo Bay on the way already, so SKillous is actually just going to do the old Disruptor Zealot Archon super macro style, and that's a really good composition in this matchup. It's probably the best one-size-fits-all composition that Protoss has in their arsenal.
A nice macro game to start this series off with. There's the Baiting Nest coming down as well. Generally, Zergs, they will stick around on that Roach Ravager, Zergling, Baneling base army. It's good against pretty much everything other than, well, very specific unit compositions. And if we're going to see those, I'm sure that Scarlett will adjust. There are a few moments, though, where things do get very scary, and I would say especially when the first round of charge slots, they hit the battlefield, this could be dangerous, but the Robo Bay, I mean, that's a big investment. You're going to have to get some value out of them.
Yeah, I think SKillous is in a very defensive stance for now. And, does lose an Oracle. Great defense there by Scarlett. Her creep spread starting to spread across the map. She's got the 3 important upgrades started. Baneling speed, Roach speed, and +2 melee. All big power spikes. Now, SKillous is going to try and get a reaction out of her. Try to scare her by moving across the map with a handful of units. And she's already up on 80 drones. Yeah. So she is not intimidated by this whatsoever. SKillous goes for the front, Nexus behind. Got to be careful. You don't want to get surrounded by the Roaches and Zerglings.
Yeah, Scarlett hit a little bit of a supply block there, so she was making a whole lot of Overlords all at once. But I agree, that could have been dangerous, right? Losing those units just to a bunch of Zerglings would be incredibly rough. In the end, though, it's a little bit of harassment, a little bit of creep clearing, and would you look at that? SKillous taking a base over here in what we consider to be the center of the map.
Yep, it's become more popular recently, that forward Nexus. Obviously much harder for the Zergs to surprise you with attacks there, but it is kind of exposed. It's got narrow ramps leading up to it, though. Much easier defensible positions. And I gotta say, Loco, I was not expecting this. I really thought someone would try to surprise the opponent with their style. But at this point, it's very much been both players trying to build to the next stage and waiting for mistakes from their opponent. Perhaps one coming in here. Zerglings get us around. They will be able to take out that one Disruptor.
Oh, that was very close. Getting a Disruptor, though, for just a couple of Zerglings is excellent. It's actually quite difficult for Zerg to deal with those Disruptors until they get Vipers out, and we're nowhere even remotely close to that. Scarlett may very well decide to just stick around in his unit composition and go for a big swarmy attack with loads of Zerglings.
I mean, she's going to have to go soonish, because remember, if you get 6-7 Archons in front of Disruptors, Lingbane Ravager does not deal with that well. Scarlett is super heavy on Roaches right now because she saw the Zealot Archon. Problem is, Roaches are not good versus Disruptors, so she is hitting max in a moment. SKillous way down in supply, but it's much better supply. His units are way more effective than hers, and that puts pressure on Scarlett to go and find effective trades in the next minute. If she lets this go for too much longer, if she lets this Prism distract her, then that window is going to close, and SKillous will hit an army that will make her army look absolutely helpless. So she's got to get a move on right now. Prism Harass, fantastic for SKillous.
Yeah, there's a couple of different options. There we go, though. We now see Baneling starting to morph in. I think we need more than 13. That's really not all too inspiring. Maybe there's not enough Zerglings here in the mix, though. SKillous already has a lot of Archons. Keep in mind, shield batteries here are amazing as well. The shield battery overcharged. There it is. We do see the Banelings, though, rolling into it.
Nice moves here for Scarlett. If she can take care of those Archons, that'll be big. Oh, Stasis Trap on the right side. Disruptor Shot holding them back. SKillous can't be affording to lose too many of these Archons. They're very expensive units. Scarlett, though, does throw away a lot of Roaches for that. The Baneling run by in the picture, but nice pull by SKillous. Only losing a handful of probes so far. It's not done just yet. Roaches coming in from the right side. Disruptor Shot is going to be avoided. Scarlett's gotten a good trade-off. She needs to keep it up, though. She can't take her foot off the pedal here. She's got to keep on going because he's got 4 bases and 80 probes. And 80 probe Protoss is not something you want to dance with for very long. She still has a lot of urgency because she's got no hive tech on the way.
Exactly, and that's a really good point here that you're making. If she does not transition toward hive tech, she's going to have to win with this unit composition that she's got right now. We don't have a Brute Lord transition, we don't have Vipers, we've got none of that going on, no Adrenal Glands. Scarlett is going to try and rinse and repeat. And the question is, was that first wave good enough? There are more Banelings available right now, but there's already a good amount of Archons. Those Disruptors, they don't mess around. I like this position more and more for SKillous, but this is do or die right now.
This is very hard to micro for SKillous. Banelings are up in that 4th base mineral and coming in from the behind as well. 25 probes get rinsed. And that there is Scarlett setting up a beautiful 4-pronged engage. The experience shows there, and SKillous, he's been looking very good recently. But when you've got to defend banelings coming in from 4 sides at once, something's got to give. And Scarlett, she finds the mark and finally knocks his economy back down.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where in theory you could defend everything, but in a realistic game it turns out even pro gamers only look at one screen at one speed. They can't play with 2 monitors. That'd be insane. Double mouse, double keyboard.
Turns out it is actually very, very difficult when you've got to make those split-second decisions. And how did those banelings get in on this left side? I think it's something SKillous is asking himself. He may have left that open before, so he's re-walling that side, saying, you know what, being distracted like that, I can't let that happen. If I've got 2 screens to manage, I can do it. But if I've also on a 3rd screen got to spread probes versus banelings, that gets to the point where microing disruptor shots in 2 places and pulling probes from 2 or 3 mineral lines, nobody can handle that correctly. So he's got to make sure he's better prepared for the next wave. But now he is so vastly outnumbered, it's going to be tough.
Oh no, this is a disaster. So many Zerglings are getting in right now, and that's even more chaos. And that's the one thing that SKillous is trying to avoid. He wants to focus on micro. These units, they can technically squeeze a lot of, well, value out of themselves if they get microed correctly. But if you're managing so many different fights at once, it's certainly going to be the Zerg who comes out ahead. And Scarlett wins what seems to be a relatively straightforward game number 1.
Business as usual for the incumbent Zerg. She is a fantastic player. And you know, I was saying you might want to surprise your opponent, put them on the back foot with a cheese early on. Scarlett is the opposite mindset. She says, or how about I just squish him with very solid standard play, overwhelm him with Lair Tech Ravager Baneling, the favored play style of Zerg vs Protoss, and if I show I can take him on in the straight up game, that's when he has to start second guessing himself. It gives her a really good, nice momentum shift at the start of this series.
I think you made a very good point though. Those banelings suddenly came from the bottom left corner of the map, and something was wrong right there with the wall off of SKillous. I think that's what threw him off guard. Obviously excellent play right there from Scarlett, but those Banes, they were not supposed to come in from that angle. You can see it blinking right here on the minimap.
Yeah, you can see it on the minimap. They actually just walked around the wall. She never fully closed it, or he never fully closed it, I should say, and definitely missing that gateway, making things hard for SKillous. It would have been difficult either way. She definitely found the weak spot when there was just a few disruptors, a few Archons, but he wasn't at 6 or 8 Archons yet, and he didn't quite have that numbers going. Scarlett with a very good play there. You know, it's awkward being forced into mass Roach. Zergs like to have a handful of Ravagers, Massling Bane. They love that versus the Stalker-based army. Versus the Zealots, you need to go heavier on the Roaches.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to avoid getting that big disruptor shot that kills 14 Roaches in one go, and you go, oh man, this is tough. But Scarlett avoided it very well. She just really kept her units well split, kept the pressure up. And she also did a good job of kind of keeping him on his toes with the harassment. She cleaned up the Oracle early game. She then was picking off those gateways that were trying to wall off the front base. So overall, a very clean start for her.
Yeah, I think we saw 2 of the 3 Oracles going down there for essentially free, right? And that's one of those units that's amazing in those defensive positions. Either way, game number 2, we find ourselves on the map Gresven, and spawning right here in the top left-hand corner, she is Scarlett. Always a fan favorite.
The upstart down here in the bottom right side, he is getting better and better. That first game is not what he wanted, but he's still yet to show us his best strategies. In the bottom right, representing Team Liquid, it is SKillous.
All right. I'm curious to see if we're going to see a little bit more of an aggressive game this time around from SKillous, because that previous game, I mean, yeah, if everything worked out perfectly for him, I think it would have been fine, but he did sort of play into Scarlett's strength, right? Scarlett in general likes to just drone straight up to 80 workers, which she read brilliantly in that previous game. She went straight up to like 79, I believe, and from there on out, she just made a lot of army and essentially won the game.
There was nothing to really throw off Scarlett's expectations. There was no fainting. Other than a single Archon walking across the map with like 2 Zealots to clear a creep tumor or 2, at which point she'd already droned to 80 workers. I mean, if you're pressuring, they're already at 80 workers. That's not really a very effective pressure. And yeah, just very nice opening for Scarlett. Definitely SKillous is going to go back to normally what is the Versurg playbook? It's surprise your opponent with timing attacks, pressures, harassment, stop them from holding that drone key down so hard.
Exactly. And the Oracles, yeah, they did a little bit of work. The Adepts, maybe a little bit as well, but Scarlett was all over that. Anyways, that game is now behind us. It's important for SKillous to not think about that game all too much. Small mistakes in StarCraft 2 at the highest level can, lead to very large results. And I think SKillous, for him, it's important right now that he puts that previous game behind himself and Just try to play a clean game once again. Do you assume it's going to be a Stargate opener once more?
Definitely is the norm right now. He did force the third base out front, though, which does open up Twilight opportunities. But with Warp Gate not starting up, that kind of answers our question.
There it is.
And my question is, will there be double chrono on the Adepts, really? Because forcing that base so exposed, I love the double Adept pressure. I think it's very difficult to deal with. And we'll find out in a moment if another Adept queues up and another chrono boost goes into the gateway. And indeed it does. All right, SKillous is really going to put on the pressure. He's going to test Scarlett's defenses this time around.
In the previous game, Scarlett made the correct amount of Zerglings, not really getting overwhelmed all too much. I think she lost 1 or 2 drones in total, one of them going down to, well, the Oracle, where the Queens were sleeping inside of the main base, but that's nothing all too crazy. This is a little bit annoying, though. So until link speed is done, it's very difficult to actually defend both sides of your base, right? So there is a third right now going down. I mean, the third in the natural expansion, that is. Link speed is about halfway done. We actually do have a commitment into the main base. Good Spore Crawler morphin over there. Second Spore Crawler, too. This is a little bit painful for Zerg, but so far the defense is solid.
But that still does cost you money there. 3 Spore Tricks going down. Adept Shades out. This other Adept Shades in as well. This is a big sacrifice to lose 2 Adepts if you don't actually take any drones out. It looks like SKillous will get out with both Adepts, but they're deep in the red. Link speed's finished. They could get hunted down if he's not careful.
I think that's exactly what Scarlett is going to try and do. She knows that there's 2 low HP Adepts out there somewhere on the map. Actually, I think the first one already must have gotten sniped. And that actually makes this all a little bit more difficult, right? I mean, you really do want to try and harass this, not just with Oracles, but you also do want to bring those Adepts out to fight. Now, the third base is going to be a little bit delayed as well. Nothing all too significant, but Scarlett is definitely feeling comfortable here.
Indeed, she's not hitting any supply blocks as well. That's a big thing. When you're applying these heavy pressure styles, the biggest thing that often ends up putting the Zerg behind is they're so busy defending that you just forget one Overlord just supply blocked, and that really slows down your build-up. Oracle does go around the left side, finds a drone rally. Uh-oh, drones in the open. One goes down, second one as well. That's going to be a nice start to the harassment there. SKillous gets 3 workers, but the Oracle does get very low.
Yeah, that's a little bit too much damage taken there, I think. Maybe a little bit overly eager. But you need to catch up in some way, and that's certainly a nice start. There's the Twilight Council. And notice this time around, we don't actually have a Forge. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's interesting to see. Might be a more aggressive blink opening this time. He does have a great worker count. I mean, Scarlett's only now catching up at 45. We often say about 40 drones is where the Zerg should catch up. So even though she's traded well cost for cost, she's had to build more Zerglings. She's had to kind of move those drones and queens around, build those Spore Tricks. This has kept SKillous economy very competitive in this game. Depth Shade in, they get 2 drones, make it 3. Oracles come in behind it. Nice pairing up with the units, gets 6 drones in total. Does have to pull out with those Oracles. Almost got number 7 and 8 there, but still pretty damn good pressure. And Scarlett's got more of a disrupted early game. This is not that clean, calm, defensive one from the last time. Blink is on the way. The Forge comes down, just slightly delayed there. But it does seem like SKillous is saying, you know what? Okay, Zealot Archon didn't work out too well. Let's go back to the stock standard. The Blink opening, and we're going to see, does he go for the 4 base play? Is it going to be Mass Stalker Zealot that's so common in the last year? Or will he go for something like a Colossus timing?
A little bit of a quicker lair this time around, also a quicker Roach Warren. Maybe Scarlett a little concerned to see exactly what the follow-up is going to be. She will be transitioning towards the +1 missile upgrade. So +1 missile together with Roaches. We're basically skipping the Ling Bane army this time around. I mean, she could obviously tech to it a little bit later, but usually this leads towards a more Roach Hydra, maybe into Lurker-based army instead.
Absolutely. It's a good style, but it is a bit more static. Not as good at dealing with the mobility of the Blink Stalkers. We'll see if it can catch SKillous off guard. Usually you want a pretty quick Hive, as the Hive gives you those upgrades to take care of everything. You get Lurkers out with range, Stalkers become a pretty bad unit for Protoss to be using. Extra gas is going down on the 3rd for SKillous.
Yep.
He is moving out with these Oracles, keeping good vision. Looks to me like a very tech-heavy play for the Protoss player, but both sides are getting established. The creep is getting a bit out of control. Those Stalkers finally going to move forward.
Templar Archives transition right now is well coming up for SKillous, so thinking about either Archons or maybe even High Templar. Can always be very effective against Zerg, but I think as soon as he realizes, okay, this is going to be a Roach-heavy army instead, I don't think we'll be seeing too many of those units. Here we go, though. The first Stalkers are showing up. Nice catch over there. Getting like 3, maybe 4 Roaches here for free. Not bad whatsoever. And now all of a creep. I mean, you talked about the mobility of the Zerg army. This is a lot more static. Getting rid of the creep here is awesome for Protoss.
Stalker micro is pretty good so far. Lots of Ravages is still mid-morph. Nice trades for SKillous, catching Scarlett unprepared for such a vicious push-in. Zerglings come from behind though, and Scarlett will punish a few of those Stalkers. Stasis Trap only getting a single Zergling. And Nikita's forced to pull back. Scarlett, good defense, but she loses a few valuable units. And Scarlett, interestingly, no Infestation Pit on the way. Is she just going to go for a Roach Max?
Yeah, Roach Ravager. I mean, that's all we really have right now for the Zerg. I mean, it's a good unit composition. We've seen it win many games, but it is certainly not the most popular style to play currently. She's just making non-stop roaches.
Look at the Oracle energy. The Oracle energy is so low. The Oracles are vital to defend this sort of pressure. So the thing is, right now, SKillous is thinking full offense, not defensively. If you don't have Oracle energy to kill the Ravagers, I don't think you can defend with this number of Stalkers. Look at the investment. Cannons, gateways, Nexus, Storm. Storm is not effective. He sees no drones on that fourth Nexus. He's got to realize what's happening. More batteries, more Stalkers, and more gateways is absolutely what he needs, but he is vastly outnumbered. She comes in for a cancel on the fourth base. The Stalkers are nearby.
Yeah, I actually don't mind this right here for SKillous, but this next attack is incredibly important, and the supply count is not lying. Scarlett has got a massive army. Yes, basic units, but the same can be said right here for SKillous. We're gonna need to see a battery overcharge here momentarily as well. We might be saving it until a little while later. There is the corrosive vials as well to shut it down right away. You mentioned the Oracles earlier. Well, they've accumulated a little bit more energy once again, and it looks like SKillous will be able to clear out the first wave, and most importantly, that fourth is still alive.
Yeah, no, that was good enough. That was good enough. I was saying the Oracle energy you needed. He only popped 2 Ravagers with it. He holds with just fantastic Stalker control, great positioning, and of course he'd already picked off so many Roaches on her side of the map. SKillous here, now at equal supply. He's got superior tech with the Blink Stalkers. Oracle's still flying overhead, though they don't have energy to fight right now. He's on 4 bases. He is far ahead in this game. Scarlett's tech is dead in the water. She's got an Infestation Pit and Hydra Den coming up. So she's going to try and make it up to Lurkers, but she's doing this from a big deficit. She's only just droned up her 4th base. She's just now taking the gases there. Big advantage for SKillous. Let's see what he can do with this.
Yeah. Did he finish the Templar Archives upgrade? I'm assuming Psionic Storm is something that he's got. Yeah. So this is one of those awkward games where you've invested into one of the most expensive Protoss upgrades, but you don't actually really make any High Templar. We may be seeing some of them coming out here momentarily. Probably not a bad choice. You have some time here to prepare energy for them. Either way, SKillous just trying to see how much damage he can actually deal with his army. I mean, Scarlett is trying to make a transition right now towards, for example, Lurkers and Hydras and all the rest of it, but we're, well, at least minutes away until those units are available. Nice little run by there as well with the Zealots, but Scarlett does push that back.
SKillous with really fluid defense so far. He's even making a Void Ray as he sees she's continuing to amass large numbers of Roach Ravager, and he just wants to get that to be a bit safe. He's got a second Stargate and a Fleet Beacon on the way as well. SKillous preparing for the late game tech switch already.
And honestly, if you're playing against Lurkers, right, and you don't have any flying units, it's incredibly hard to deal with them. So SKillous starting up the transition nice and early here, trying to go into that Skytle's army. This is the moment where Scarlett just started producing Hydras. It's still scary right here for SKillous, don't get me wrong, but this is looking better and better and better for the Protoss.
He's getting all the tools that he needs. More cannons and batteries across these bases. The static defense, just a little bit of endurance to make sure nothing goes sideways while he's in the midst of the air transition. And I tell you what, with her not even having a Lurker Viper army out yet and him already starting carriers, this is a disaster for Zerg. I mean, arguably you could say she has a push timing when there's only a few carriers, but no, she doesn't even have any Hydralisks. She has nothing that shoots up in this game. Nothing in production that shoots up. Walks into a Psystorm there, the Stalker's punishing in a big way. SKillous looking really monstrous in this standard game.
Yeah. All that SKillous really needs right now is time, right? And even though maybe the High Templar aren't amazing against Roaches, they do force them to disengage and to back off. And that's really all that SKillous needs. He's trying to transition towards a much better army. Now, it's important not to get too overly aggressive. Yeah, exactly. Force those Lurkers to burrow underground, then back off once again. There's the Mama ship coming up too. +1 flyer upgrades right here, or I guess air weapons for the Protoss, fair enough. Going into, yeah, just a stronger and stronger late game army. Even a couple of Immortals getting mixed in.
Yep, SKillous is upgrading his Glaive Worms Loco, that's right. Going to be getting that extra Kindness plating soon as well, no doubt. We'll see how he goes. Extra gas is coming in though. I mean, it feels like Scarlett here, she knows she needs to get something done, and I love the patience of SKillous. Wow. He's just waiting to receive these pressures. Good Lurker volley does land. She catches the High Templar as well. Okay, she's getting some good value. The problem is, look at SKillous' supply. He's replacing this with just air units, nice expendable Zealots he can use for backstabs, and he's got a lot more army where that came from.
All right, the first carriers are out, and they're saying hello to units that can't actually shoot up. We've got Hydras coming, we've got Spires on the production tab, but yeah, it's gonna be a little while until Scarlett actually has a correct answer. We're still playing mostly Roaches and Ravagers against a high-tech Protoss player. SKillous has got all of the tools that he needs. Now, the question is, when is he going to attack? I mean, the mothership is just about to join the battlefield as well. I think there's a good time to go here very quickly.
Yeah, I think SKillous has a gigantic window. You know those big apartments where basically the whole wall is just a big piece of glass?
That's essentially a skyscraper made out of glass.
That's essentially SKillous's window to go take her out. I mean, she just does not have anti-air for the longest time in this game. You gotta remember that roach attack she went for was meant to be a kill move. When that got stuffed by SKillous, he had a massive advantage from there. She's still not giving up. Obviously, she's gonna keep moving around. She's looking for angles, picking off the gateways. But just look at how well prepared he is. He's got stasis traps on all sides. Mothership is out to cloak the building. Storms and carriers. What's she got to deal with? A handful of Hydralisks to shoot up. The cannons and the carriers say, get out of here. And do not be surprised if Scarlett suddenly taps out at some point in the next few minutes, simply because there are very few paths to victory for her. She's going to try to make it to air. Yeah. This is all predicated on her buying, what, 6-7 minutes without SKillous getting to her side of the map. And that is a tall task. She's going to need to dig into her many years of experience to find a way to keep him back.
And here comes SKillous. He's not quite maxed out yet. What do you spend the last little bit of supply on? Well, apparently we're going to go for some High Templar, and I think we'll be morphing them into Archons. Archons are amazing against clumped up units, and in this particular fight, I think the unit that SKillous is trying to kill is going to be that Corruptor. The Corruptor is the main answer right here for Scarlett to try and deal with all of these Skytools units, but this is an incredibly scary Protoss army.
Nice move forward there by SKillous, denying this base, takes it out. Scarlett does calmly pull her drones away. She knows she needs a bit more time to get some more Corruptors and upgrades out. Zealot run by in the north, also wounding a few of those drones, cancelling some Spine Crawlers, and SKillous even pulling them back when the Roaches respond. Corruptors in the open. She's coming in with a flank right now, but look at the Psy Storms on top of those Corruptors.
There's even a Time Warp coming down as well right now, reducing the movement speed and the attack speed of the units caught in the bubble. The Zerg army is being cleaned up, and maybe more importantly, well, that's the end of the game. I was going to say maybe more importantly, all of the heavy hitters from Protoss are still available. Honestly, brilliant game right there by SKillous. He looked in control from start to finish. Maybe a little bit scary when that big Roach Ravager attack came in, but honestly, he handled that really brilliantly, especially since he was going into Templar, and they weren't very useful in that fight at all.
Yeah, great harassment from start to finish as well. He really kept his thumb on her and just did not give her any room to breathe. There was Adepts and Oracles from start to finish, and that's set up for this moment. She's down 2 workers. She's massing army. And yet she wasn't ready for the Stalker poke. That tells you that SKillous got an advantage off the early game. He must have had a pretty damn solid one. The fact that he could push in at this moment. And, you know, she might have been planning, hey, if you're going to do that same Zealot Archon style, I'm going to go for this big Roach Ravager push. This is a perfect way to take out a Zealot player. Stalkers, though, look at how good they are on the defense. You just keep pulling back the weak ones with their blink ability. You've got shield batteries meshing with them perfectly. The Oracles left over, blasting a few Ravages, even though they had so little energy. This was fantastic defense by SKillous.
Yeah, and one thing actually that SKillous used those Oracles for is revelations on the creep tumors continuously. So even though Scarlett did push back some of the creep out onto the map later on, I guess this was the main mistake here from SKillous. Losing a little bit, but replacing a lot of those Stalkers as well with some of the heavy hitters instead. Anyways, SKillous did a really good job controlling the creep as well, making sure that it didn't get too crazy. And this final fight over here, I mean, Scarlett tried her best to clean all of these units up, but it is just way too much Protoss. SKillous playing a very solid game.
You know, it's that moment when you realize you're surrounded, but then you realize there are roaches in your carriers, and you kind of just smile and say, it doesn't matter.
You can't even see the carriers, man. I don't know if there was any detection there, but there wasn't a whole lot remaining for the Zerg.
Our army's a little bit better than theirs. I don't think it matters how the fight goes, you know. It's a pretty nice way to start the series for Scarlett, but SKillous has brought it back now, tied it up, and this is exactly what we hope. These players are like 50 rating apart from each other on a Ligulac. They are really evenly matched. They've never played before in a competitive environment. And this is going to be, of course, a best-of-5 series. First of 3 wins takes it out. Scarlett did look a little frustrated at the end of that last game, but no doubt just feeling helpless after her Roach attack failed.
The winner of this series will go up against Classic later. Not an easy opponent whatsoever, but got a feeling that they're not really too focused on that at this particular moment in time.
That's a lovely prize for revenge. I know Scarlett would love revenge against Classic because he took her out in the early stages of Katowice a few months ago, and that was an unceremonious one as well. He was doing Immortal Sentry timings to her the whole time and really weird, oddball, old school attacks. But of course, definitely one series at a time for these players. The tournament here, this knockout bracket, it is grueling. It is such a big task. I mean, I really am hoping we get someone from the first round to get out. It'd be such a cool story if someone goes through like 4 or 5 opponents in one day, gets to the playoffs from it. That'll be very, very cool. But of course, you've got at the end of these brackets players like Maru, players like Dark, Clem, and Estrella waiting for whoever gets to the final round. So it's not any easy task.
All right, here we go. Neo Humanity is going to be game number 3 in this best of 5 series. And spotting right here in the bottom right-hand corner, playing with the red Zerg drones, representing the Shopify Rebellion, we have Scarlett.
And in the top left of Neo Humanity, representing Team Liquid, showing just what he's made of in that last game. Let's see if he can keep it up. It's SKillous. Both of them got their focus faces on now, Loco.
Raising his eyebrows a little bit. I wonder if he saw anything, but I highly doubt it at this point in the game. He saw a drone trying to move down towards the low ground to make an expansion. That's unheard of.
And no risky purple gas base. Scarlett says, it's fine, I'm just going to take the third. I'm not crazy. You know, there's quite a few Zergs who will use that as an excuse.
Crazy? You mean a missed opportunity?
Yeah. I mean, like, basically half the Zergs out there, I feel lately, they love any excuse to take that purple gas base, but...
I like how the meta has changed quite a bit. For a little while, we saw the first expansion for Zerg going down behind the golden minerals right over here on the side of the Protoss. That was, well, mostly dark, but a couple other Zergs gave it a try too. And right now, in the current meta of this map, we see a lot of Zerg players enjoying that forward base as well, where you have access to that high-yield Vespian Geyser. It gives you double the income, which is amazing, but it also runs out and it's very exposed. Turns out, though, when you knock down the rocks in the middle of the map, the entire tower collapses, and you can actually prevent most, for example, adept pushes that Protoss players usually get triggered into.
Indeed, it's really fantastic. We very rarely see it, but just once or twice in pro play, we've seen armies get trapped, even in the middle of those rocks in the middle of the map as well. But that remains to be seen if it'll happen here. Scarlett, of course, is going to be very focused. Because in that last game, she had her base blocked. She had to take the third.
Yeah.
What happened? Adepts, Oracles in her face from start to finish. She sees with her Overlord, Adepts are getting chrono boosted across the map. And she knows she wants to have a cleaner opening. So for her, it's all about making sure she is absolutely perfect versus these early Adepts. Not making any mistakes, continuing to, not get supply blocked at all, which is exactly what she did last time as well. And if she can get to that 6-7 minute mark without being behind, it's going to give her a much better kickstart into the mid game.
Small deviations right here from SKillous, going for the Warp Gate upgrade, then the Stargate, going for the Adept into the Stalker. Small changes right here, even though the unit composition is gonna look mostly the same. If Scarlett prepares like this was the previous game, then, well, suddenly she's gonna have too many links available. That means that there's less workers out. I like what SKillous is doing here, making sure as well that it's difficult for the opponent to scout out exactly what's going on. Scarlett, though, so far, good with the defense.
We'll see if she takes the bait and builds a Roach Warren, thinking it's a Twilight Council build, because that is what SKillous is trying to project here. He's making it look like it's a Twilight Council build. So far, of course, that hasn't come into play. The Adept just dancing around. No commitment for the Adept this time around. No Spore Crawler tricks being forced, but Scarlett does have a handful of Zerglings. The first Oracle about to hit the field here. Scarlett, she's maintained control of her side of the map, but remember, this is not the heavy pressure that we were expecting. Now, does SKillous wait for the second Oracle since he's hiding them, or does he go straight across the map?
I think he needs to try and take the third base, right? So at the very least, keep it close by. I think the timing of this third is already a pretty clear giveaway for Scarlett, at least what she's playing against here. She already fired up a Spore Crawler before just by seeing the timing there of that third Nexus. It went down with a Stargate timing rather than a Twilight Council timing, so she should be okay here. We're once again gonna have a similar looking early game. Scarlett definitely not happy from how it went in game number 2. What changes do you make though, right? Game number 1, I mean, we saw the same thing too, and that time around she took very little damage.
Well, I think your question is answered there, Loco. Evo Chamber goes down. She says, back to +1 melee. That's my comfort zone. That's what I want to play, and I think that's a good choice for Scarlett. I do think she excels with the Zergling style, and definitely something where she showed, even if they go Zealot Archon, well, she's comfortable. Okay, open up melee, that's fine. I'll still go heavy Roaches and add the Banelings on top of it, and I'll still make a game out of it and play very well. Gets the win in that first map. Now, it is a Twilight Forge. Extra gas is coming down. Extra gateways starting. +1 melee for Scarlett as well. Both sides haven't really done any damage just yet. Oracles will snag a drone before getting out.
Yeah, there's the Twilight Council. Forge coming up. There's that fourth base, though. So the fourth base is not going to be tucked away to the right side of the map, or maybe even the one behind the natural. We're going to be getting that high-yield gas here eventually. Anyways, what exactly are we going to be researching right here inside of that Twilight Council? It's once again going to be charged. Now, is there already a robo facility?
I don't think there is.
Okay, there it is, yeah.
That's a really interesting catch, yeah. So it does start now, but already charged and +1 on the way. +1 very important, allows you to 2-shot rather than 3-shot Zerglings. And another Oracle comes in from the left. Stasis Trap attempt, perhaps. Nope, just grabs a drone, gets out, but heavy damage goes down. Slight miss micro for SKillous.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we will be seeing a similar attack, or at least a potential attack, as we already had in game number 1. I mean, this could once again be defensive here, but it's going to give Scarlett the go-ahead, if this is indeed going to be defensive, to go straight up to 80 workers. And this time around, it's going to be with a gas geyser that's going to give you even more income, and that means more banelings. I'm not exactly sure what SKillous is planning. Do you think he's going to play defensively here?
I'm still very curious. The 6 gas does make me think he's probably likely to drop a Robo Bay and head in that same direction he did in the first map. And that's not a bad play. It definitely can work. Yep, there we go. Robo Bay goes down. So it is indeed that. And he's definitely just going to try to play that same style, but no doubt not let the Banelings roll in this time around. Try to be a little more perfect with his positioning. And I would love to see him pressure right now. Move out with the Archon and the few Zealots. If he can scare Scarlett, that'd be great. But she's already going up to 76, actually 80 drones.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's going to go to 80 drones right now. That's a crazy number.
That is indeed a whole lot of workers right here for the Canadian Zerg. Going into the Hydra then, a little bit quicker too.
Oh.
Maybe going Hydraling Bane, something along those lines. Do we actually have a Baneling nest down?
Yeah, she has a Baneling nest from earlier, but no Roach Horn. She skipped that entirely in this game. SKillous, if he knew that, he probably would regret the fact that he hasn't really hit a committed Zealot Archon attack.
Yeah.
So good if they skip the Roach Horn, but he's playing a little afraid right now. Maybe not dictating the pace as much as he could. +2 melees on the way, Bane speed. Hydra upgrades will be starting up momentarily. Scarlett on 76 workers and popping up to 80 in a moment. Disruptors are on the way. The Hydras, though, are very good at popping the Archons. Positioning is so important in these battles. If the Banelings connect with the Zealots, the Hydras can shoot down the Archons. No big Disruptors land. It can look devastating.
Wow. We have seen a bunch of Oracles going down here for essentially free. Scarlett at this point knows exactly what she's playing against. That Robo Bay got put down within the vision of one of those Overlords, which is also not quite ideal. One of the things that Scarlett does have to be a little concerned for later on in this game could be Colossi. Oh, we even have a Phoenix coming up right now, so SKillous really concerned for maybe even like a Mutalisk transition here. But none of that is coming. It's just going to be a whole lot of Hydraling Bane.
Yeah, he has to focus on just making ground army units right now. He doesn't realize that, of course. We get to see everything he does not. And losing the Oracle's a big bummer for him. Here we go, Zealot Archon Disruptor coming forward. He sees the Hydras now, so he knows what he's up against. And those Adepts do shade off to the left watchtower where they get surrounded by Zerglings and taken out. The Hydras are starting to mass. Bane speed is done. The first Hydra upgrade kicking in. That's the movement speed. +2 melee is not far away. Scarlett's got a hefty supply advantage. But look at this drop. I love these moves by SKillous to buy himself time. Good pullback with the Zealots. Few of them turn around, but still a good trade for SKillous.
Yeah, a couple of them will still end up going down there, but Banelings aren't the cheapest unit that Zerg can make here. Additional drones actually going down as well from Scarlett, so I thought she was going to go for a very big attack, and maybe she will as soon as this +2 melee finishes up, but she's also happy to play a bit of a longer game if it is completely necessary. Now here we go. The big Baneling transition is coming up. For now, the Banelings have mostly been produced to make sure that the Zealots don't just kill you. Right now, though, there's a ton of Banes coming up. That gas at the front, very helpful in this specific scenario. Question is she going to be able to deal critical amounts of damage here? Because SKillous does look like he's got all of the tools at his disposal to defend this.
The Zealots aren't going to be too useful, though. I think he wishes those Zealots were doing a backstab right now. Anything to pull her attention away because she's got so many Banelings. Datry Overcharge comes in. Lingbane Hydra pushing into the natural. But I think he's got enough numbers to hold it off. But wait. Banelings in the mineral line. Watch out. They've got +2. Oh, no.
Yeah, they're going to be able to one-shot those workers. 7 of them end up going down. Nothing all too crazy just yet, but that was only the first wave of what could be, well, at least 100, right? There's so many units that can be streaming across the map. Looks like even the StarCraft core is going to end up going down here, which would suck. But what about those probes? 12 more, 16 more. This is really starting to hurt. At the very least, the fight on the left side of the map has been held, but oh my god, we've got even more damage in the main base!
Oh, SKillous overcommitted to defending the left. He let her flood into the right. He's realized that now and he's fixing it. But now she's rotating her focus. She's switching to the left side. A lot of her economy's been taken down. A lot of his, has been taken down. She, on the other hand, is going Hive behind this Infestation Pit Lurker and 2 more bases. Oh. She's morphing Banelings right outside his base. The disrespect from Scarlett here. And she's just looking for an opening, but she's got to watch out for those disruptors.
Well, this is one of those timings you could theoretically hit perfectly with a Purification Nova, but there's a little too much happening here all at the same time. Okay, the Archons are getting a lot of value off over here. Archons are amazing against Ling Bane-based armies, which is exactly why SKillous is focused so heavily on all of that.
Oh, nice disruptor shots, but he hasn't really landed any big juicies. The Banelings are finding the mineral line right now, and yet again, Scarlett splitting in 2 mineral lines at once. Remember, she's on 80 workers behind this. She can trade like this for a while, but the Archons survive, and that might be time to counter thrust because she just threw away a lot of Zergling Baneling Hydra. She's mortally wounded his economy. If he gives her a few minutes, she'll outscale him. She's mass-producing units, but right now her army is really small.
Yeah, there is a Lurker transition on the, well, at least the goals list right here for Scarlett. It's going to be a little while, though, before she actually gets there. Hive Tech is done, but for now, we're desperate and we're making as many Banelings here as possible. Looks like there's actually no Prism available, but already quite a few units are being caught off guard. SKillous needs to go pretty soon, though. He needs to be very careful that he doesn't overextend. But
her +2 Broodlings just killed an Archon, actually, from the hatchery. Very rare you see that. Disruptors firing out shots to try to cover the flank. That's a lot of Archons, but her angling is fantastic. The 3 Archons on the left getting surrounded by Zerglings. If she can get rid of these Archons, she could do it. Scarlett coming in with some beautiful surrounds. The Hydra spread so well. Zerglings coming in from all sides. More Zealots coming in. Another Archon as well, but SKillous is simply outnumbered.
Yeah, there's the Prism finally showing up right after the fight ends, right? And having some units juggled around would have been absolutely amazing. And you brought up the Archons on the left side. They really should have been in one big ball right there. Either way, SKillous is going to continue trying because he knows very well where this game is leading if he doesn't get it done soon. As soon as a bunch of Lurkers hit the battlefield, it is game over for the Protoss player. So here we go once again.
There's no Banelings right now, so the Zealots are actually incredibly powerful. The Disruptors zone out those Hydras. One Disruptor does get taken out. There's a lot of Archons where that was. And oh my lord, those Hydras are very fragile. Good pullback by Scarlett. She's got to be so careful. Her army is high damage, but it's like a glass cannon. It can shatter so easily if those Archons get on top of them.
I don't know if I like this hatchery positioning here all too much. It's just for larva generation, but it's creating choke points that makes it quite difficult for the Zerg to actually get a proper engagement in. Zealots right now is starting to charge at the leftover Hydras here on the left side. Archons are taking care of the drones in the mineral line, and it's SKillous who puts his hands up in the air as well. He can't believe he won that. I don't think it was meant to be, but hey, a win is a win.
Yeah, I don't know if that was his clown pose or what. He put his hands up on either side, kind of like, what did I just do? I didn't realize I had a way to win that game, but he finds a way and cracks a big smile. The young gun staying focused, and that counter push, it looked like it was almost stopped with the Lings surrounding the Archons. A Broodling, pack of Broodlings from that purple base actually killed an Archon on its own behind it as well. But man, SKillous just kept it together. Really solid micro and great defense to hang on.
+3 finished right at the very end of that game as well, so that final fight was excellent there as far as the upgrades go for our Protoss player. This goes to show that, yeah, you can kill all of your opponent's economy, but at some point you're going to have to address their army as well. And it turns out killing all of those probes was not a particularly cheap task right here for our Zerg player from Canada. Scarlett getting a little over-eager. She was ready. Look, the Lurker Den, it's finishing up right here. I think if she would have actually transitioned into Lurkers here, it would have been a lot more manageable. Even then, though, it's still scary, right? I mean, Archons, they don't die very quickly. Disruptors, obviously, also a pretty good unit. Lovely game.
Yeah, just a few Lurkers would have been a game changer. You're absolutely right, Loco. It's just something where you're so caught up in the heat of the moment. It's easy to forget that, you know, making +2 range and more Hydras. 3 or 4 Lurkers are so good. They would only be 8 range Lurkers, so the Disruptor would cause them problems. But as long as you don't clump them up too bad, it definitely would have given her a shot to continue. But a tough position to be in for Scarlett. She sacrificed about 80 Banelings to ruin his economy. She just could not handle the counterpunch.
Alrighty. Even SKillous could not quite believe his eyes when he saw the victory screen. I think in his mind that game was over, but he's like, okay, I'm playing a premier tournament. You know what? I'll just put all of my eggs in one basket, and I'll just try and go for a big attack. I'll fire up the +3. I'll make as many Archons and Zealots as I can, and I'll just go for one final attack. And you know what? Sometimes it works out.
She made up his mind for him in that last game. Unfortunately, she could not handle the counter push that she forced him to do. She's going to be ultra focused going into Babylon. Down here in the bottom right of the map, representing Shopify Rebellion, it is Scarlett.
And her opponent, representing Team Liquid, makes some noise for SKillous. I love the facial expressions. Even though they're just making workers at this point and trying to micro their mineral fields.
I've always been the #1 fan. Like when Scarlett has that focused look on her face, she looks like she's kind of like, I hate you. Like, you know, I've got some real spite for you.
used to do, right? Jacob looked so angry when he was playing a game of StarCraft 1.
It's that Zerg rage. How dare you try and take my victories from me, my tournament winnings and all the rest. But always cool to see each player as their own unique focused face. Nice block on the natural once again here for SKillous. After that first game where he didn't scout, he said, nope, this is the way to do it. Finding success with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's keep on blocking the expansion. Force her to take that third base on a small map like this. I mean, I think double adept pressure is a no-brainer. It's just such a good way to punish the short rush distance of this map.
I always liked Grubby's face whenever he was very focused. Basically at like second 10, his mouth would start hanging open.
Wide open, right? Yeah.
And it wouldn't close until the end of the game. It's like, okay, well, no wonder you're drinking water in between the games.
You get real thirsty, man. It's not just the adrenaline, it's also the fact that, there's... But that was pretty damn awesome to see. And I think Scarlett now, she's just going to have to take a deep breath and keep things focused. I do wonder, was it a bit too much economy? You mentioned she droned pretty hard in that last game. And she was also trying to transition into like lurkers. Maybe she went a bit too much at once, a bit too on autopilot, where, you know, there's a real urgency in this matchup. I was talking about it in game 1, and then she just destroyed him. And, you know, we didn't really get to see the evidence. But you saw in that last game, if the Protoss gets enough of those units together, like 6, 7 Archons, 3 Disruptors behind it, there's this massive power spike because all of those units support each other, and they become so effective. Whereas the Zerg army, it's like, oh, I've got an extra bunch of Hydras. That's more units to clump up for splash damage. They don't really get stronger as they grow. So you've got to keep the Protoss army small.
Yeah, and there's usually, when you get to like 4, 5, 6 Archons, there's a moment where the Archons start taking damage, but they don't actually fall, right? So if you have a few Archons, maybe they get surrounded, maybe they get picked off, but damaging an Archon does absolutely no good, especially if you're doing it with Banelings. It's something like 21 Banelings versus a single Archon. That's how good their shields actually are. Anyways, we're not quite there yet here in game number 4, but it's match point right now for SKillous, who's once again opening up with the Stargate here. We've seen that every single game so far, together with the Adepts.
SKillous coming in with the double adept pressure right now. Does take down the creep tumor at the third. Good catch. Cancels the shade. Takes out a Zergling.
Not bad.
Still unharmed. The Adepts have only lost shields, so they're looking really healthy. And the thing is, you want to keep these Adepts alive, because if you can keep them forward and pair up that pressure with the Oracles, it's a very good chance. But link speed's done. Scarlett's coming down. She's going to finally get rid of these Adepts.
Yeah, this is a little bit annoying, of course, here for SKillous. Not only do you want these units to stick around to harass the Zerg, but you also actually need them to protect the third base. Now, at this point, we don't actually have one yet because the first Oracle also flew across. 3 workers end up going down here, but where's the third Nexus? There is no third Nexus. Now we're going to try and take one, but I mean, we've lost the Adept, or Adepts even. We don't have an Oracle hanging out here. This third was supposed to go down 20 seconds ago.
That being said, there's a Twilight Council already up in another gateway, so having the third denied is not the end of the world. It is, of course, rough, but SKillous has a worker advantage from it. Evo Chamber goes down, extra spores on the way, fantastic droning from Scarlett. I think she's doing a really good job of bouncing back from the damage that SKillous did at the start.
Okay, Spore Crawler's coming up as well. Scarlett just making sure that these Oracles cannot continuously deal damage. Maybe not the best spread right here on these Overlords though, right? Would have been nice to see them a little bit less grouped together to see the angle at which those Oracles are going to come in from. And this right side over here, for example, quite difficult for the Zerg player to scout if you don't have your Overlord over there, but the Queen's already waiting.
This is interesting. SKillous going for a blink very early in this game.
Yeah.
And he actually went for 4 gateways very early as well. Now, I wonder if that's just because he's afraid she might queen walk. Very popular on this map for Zergs to walk queens over and flood Zerglings or Ravagers. So maybe he's just playing a little bit extra safe, but this also could lean into some aggression of his own. As I say, that Forge does go down, so looks like he is just going to keep it the way it's going. And Tech on upwards. He's looked really good with the defensive Stalker play. No reason to change it up.
Yeah, now the timing of the third Nexus, though, is going to hurt a little bit because Scarlett's economy has been quite a bit bigger here for quite a while. It does mean that the game is leading once more towards a very similar unit composition, but I think this game is a little more comfortable right here for Scarlett.
She's only on 52 workers and she's already massing Zerglings. That's interesting.
There's the Queen Walk I think you were talking about, isn't it?
Oh, really? Oh my, I don't know if that's real, is it?
No, I think she's actually just putting down creep tumors here, but that's a lot of Ling Bane.
Yeah, it's a lot of Lings. I mean, she is at 50.
Yeah, we are actually going to be moving the ladies across the map right now. We're marching them towards the Protoss side of the map. I guess she's looking at the amount of damage these Oracles have done, and she's decided, yo, it's not enough. I'm going to try and punish you for it.
He's already on 4 gateways, though. Remember, he already anticipated a move like this. He's got a lot of Stalkers warped in. I thought it was a peculiar way to order his build order.
She's trying to trigger the battery overcharge here. Actually, the battery's just going to go down.
The battery will go down. That is a problem. Oh, get another battery started, though, and he might be okay. Those Queens are still a while away, and I think he's got a lot of Stalkers on the natural. The Queens are starting to drop right now. Oh, SKillous was so well prepared for this. He knew that this is a popular option on this map, and he was ready for it. He hides the Stalkers, waits for her to come across the map, and she steps into his trap.
That explains the timing of the third Nexus and the Twilight Council right here. SKillous assuming that the opponent goes for this build. Now maybe these Banelings, they can justify it. If these Banelings connect, it's going to be a really sour win or a game right here for SKillous, because that would make things a lot more difficult. Please run the probe.
They need the Boom Boom to end all Boom Booms.
Oh, no.
SKillous.
Hello.
Oh, my lord. Oh, my god, so greedy, so greedy. Oh, he does lose 6 probes. Definitely averting disaster, but a bit of damage for Scarlett. Oracles and Stalker's going to counterattack. He doesn't want to give her a chance to get back in this game. She hasn't built a single drone, though. She knew this counterattack would be coming, so she's massing Zerglings, but the Oracle is destroying them. That Oracle must have got about 12 Zergling kills in those few seconds. Her Queen's being forced to the front, but SKillous was ready for it. He knew exactly what she would try on this map, and he has hard counted her.
+1 ground weapons finishing up for Protoss. Charge finishing in a couple of seconds as well. That's going to make them so much more powerful. The Zealots that is against these Ling-based armies. There's nothing else right here for our Zerg player. SKillous just trying to buy as much time as possible. Sadly for him, there is no Prism available, but here come the reinforcements. They have a long way to walk. Not a whole lot of creep anymore in this area, but enough for the Zerg at the very least to bring these units close together. But I really like this right here from SKillous, trying to reduce the surface area by blinking into that mineral line. And I think he's done it, man. SKillous looking so good here.
He's got a 4th up behind it. He's making upgrades. He's making tech production, everything. But he keeps on finding fights that are just too good. He can't say no. He's like, well, there's no reason to recall. I'm trading so well. I might as well keep committing. And this is going to be a absolutely fantastic hold into a great counterattack. You can see it on Scarlett's face, of course. She realizes this situation is rather terrible. Bit of a tilt to that and a bit of a shake there. SKillous, on the other hand, very happy. That comeback in the last game when his economy got hammered was absolutely surprising. I mean, this easily could have been 2-1 in favor of Scarlett right now.
Yeah.
But SKillous, you know, he's just had the ability to make comebacks. He's really evolved in the last few months to a next level player. Is he taking a 5th base loco?
Yeah, I think he's getting a little carried away here. It seems to me that Scarlett is getting one final shot. She's hoping for it too, because she's actually just queued up 11 drones here, but I've got a feeling that SKillous is, well, on the verge of winning this particular series. Scarlett, though, playing for her tournament life here. She needs to try and just get as much value as possible. Seeing this 5th Nexus, man. This Link counterattack, it was supposed to go to the 4th, not to the 5th.
Yeah, that is not a good feeling there. Scarlett knows she's far behind. She's hoping that he's going to chuck a Protoss. You know, he's going to just somehow, I don't know, his keyboard's going to come unplugged or something. She's obviously going to keep fighting it out, though, because she is a veteran. I mean, her tournament life is on the line. She's going to keep doing what she can. You know, it's just crazy how well he read this simply before even seeing any sign of a Queen Walk. He didn't scout it. He just
assumed it was going to happen.
He just was like, there's a chance. This is a super safe way of playing. I've got like 8 Stalkers hiding behind my natural wall that you don't see until you're on my side of the map. And it's such a punishing move. It's such a smart way to play the series. Just really good next level understanding of how Zergs and specifically Scarlett is playing right now. Queen's being forced off the line. The Ling Bane desperately trying to hold. Slow Banelings waddling into the Zealots. But even there, you see the attention to detail with those Zealots spreading out.
GG is